Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Positive Post in Conversation. I'm Zazie Todd. I'm joined, as always, by my friend and colleague, Christy Benson. Hi, Christy. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good, good. And I'm very excited because today we're joined by uh, another friend and colleague who is Jennifer Malawey, who's joining us from Washington, Washington State, somewhere near Vancouver. And Jennifer is a dog trainer and influencer who has her CTC from the Academy for Dog Trainers. And she's also a certified SA Pro trainer working separation anxiety cases. And we're going to talk to her today about how to use social media to make life better for dogs. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Sazi. Thanks for having me.
So there's a whole ton of things that you can put out on social media, and you're active across very many different channels, actually, and you have some fantastic content that we've been looking at prior to this interview. And there are so many things you can say. So how do you decide what you think are the most important messages to get across on social media?
Oh, how do you decide? That's a tricky one because you're right. There's like, as trainers, there are a million things that we think are important and then we want to get across. And when it comes to any social media channel, there's no right answer. I think how you decide is really kind of doing some introspection and like deciding what are the things that get you most fired up. Like I was asked by a mentor at one point, like, what are the things that you could just like rant about for days? Like, what are the things that make you angry, or what are the things that you just can't shut up about within the whole scope of dogs and behavior? And thinking about that was kind of like how I was able to like narrow my focus. So for me, I chose to try and focus on the fact that dog training can and should be fun for you and the dog. Just bringing out the fun, because I think everybody, our trainers included, get kind of bogged down in like the drudgery of it sometimes, or the disappointments and things. And like, there's always ways to bring fun back into it, and I think that keeps people going. So that was like one of the biggest things for me. And then if I could choose a second, it's that there's so many different ways to train, right? And we there are trade-offs with everything in life. There are trade-offs, and speed is something that might motivate some people, but there are things that you lose out when you go for like the fastest option to your goals. And so there are the things that keep me like in the game and keep me having fun and wanting to work with dogs and wanting to train my own dogs. Those little things, the little like sparks in their eyes, and the my chihuahua's doing zoomy circles on the bed right now. The like those little things that sometimes are hard to put into words, the magic of dog training, you don't get that when you opt for the speedy option. And so to me, I just kind of sum it up in the concept of slow magic, right? Sometimes there are things you only get when you do it the slow way. And so that's kind of another thing that I really try to convey in my content.
I like that slow magic, like slow dog training, kind of like the slow food movement, where you get more enjoyment from your food if you take your time over it. So, and
Exactly.
I like the idea of fun too, because what is more fun than having a chihuahua doing zoomies on your bed, basically? That's the lovely thing about dogs, isn't it? When they're happy, I think it brings us so much joy and so much fun as well, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, watching them be happy is like the whole point of having dogs, in my opinion.
For sure. No one gets, so I think something that Jean says that's like relevant to essentially all trainings, that no one gets dogs to increase the drudgery in their lives. And it's true. And I think it's like important as dog trainers that we recognize that having fun is not a minor aspect, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the things that I loved watching all your videos, or some of your videos, before we talked, was just like you have so many different types of of videos, and so many, like, it seems to me like you have a lot of like really fun ideas. And I wondered, how did you come up with these ideas, like putting together a particular sound with a particular type of dog training or the music, or you'll be doing something silly. And, like, I was just like, I love it. I find it I love that kind of creativity. Really, I find it really enjoyable to watch. So does this just come to you? Do you like search it out? How do you come up with all of these ideas,
This is such a, it's kind of a hard question, and kind of not, because for me personally, I have a like ideas of how to come up with ideas answer. But for me personally, it's also been like the journey of kind of starting out as, I'll say just dogs are going crazy. Just a dog trainer to being a trainer and like a content creator was, I have kind of like my whole life, my backstory, like I've kind of suppressed my creative side, like, and I have theories after learning about learning theory or behavior science that, like, growing up with a lot of punishment like suppresses behavior and suppresses creativity. And so I think that, and my family's very creative. They're all artists, and me, I'm like, nope, don't have any of it. And so it was only within the last few years that I was like, creativity is a skill, and I'm not going to get to express it if I don't start like exploring it. And so for me, this has also been kind of a journey of self-exploration, of like letting go and like just having fun. Okay, we're going to come back to fun. It's just, yeah, it's kind of like letting yourself behave and just do stuff, try stuff. So that's the like kind of personal story answer. But in terms of like how to keep coming up with ideas, because when you like, that's the thing about social media, is like you have to keep showing up, and when you don't, like I've gone through periods where I just like stop posting for a while, and then your audience stops showing up. So it's kind of important that you keep those creative juices flowing, and so I have like a kind of a list of like, okay, when I'm not feeling that creative inspiration, like where can I go to just come up with ideas? And sometimes it is just like the random viral sounds that you'll see as you're scrolling through, and you'll just be like, oh, like there's a way I can apply this to my content. But yeah, like ideas can come from anywhere, right? And so part of it is just mindset, and like remembering to just keep your eyes open, that like inspiration literally can be anywhere. Just look around the room and like something will pop out. Ideas, you can get ideas sparked in conversation, whether that's with clients or with just family or friends or complete strangers on the street. Just something that people say, it just like something happens in your brain and you're like, oh, okay, that could be something. And sometimes you don't know where it's going to go. You just know that like, yeah, maybe if I go down this road, it'll turn out to be an idea. But then, you can go and like scouring your comment section for like things that your audience has said, or going to like other trainers' comment sections and finding out like, what are people asking? A lot of times, like when you see repeat questions, or from your own clients, any question that gets repeated a lot is perfect for making content about. And you can reuse those all the time, because we all need repetition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. And sometimes like we follow creators that are in completely different fields, and they'll have great ideas. That's a great place to go for inspiration as well. Or just like reading a book, watching a movie, like it's literally anywhere. Ideas can come from wherever.
One of my favorite one of my favorite types of blogs that I write is what I secretly call a revenge blog. So if I see an idea, or if I see somebody saying something, and people will be very strident when they're talking about dogs, and they can just be saying something that's absolutely false. And so instead of like arguing on social media, what I like to do is I like to write a blog that's very positive and chirpy and happy, and just completely slays the argument. It makes me feel really good, and kind of like a background evil way. Do you ever do that? Is there ever like I'm doing a revenge blog?
100%. I think that's such a great way to go about it, because like there's always the toxicity that can come in when you're on social media, and so finding ways to like kind of avoid it, but like meet that need of sharing what is the accurate information, just getting it out there, because sometimes it's like a numbers game, right? And if you go and you search like any random dog topic, like it still feels like today that there's there's so much more misinformation than accurate information. So just putting out the information that you went out there, like just to stack the deck is a great way to go about it.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. And I like that you said that you also get ideas from following content creators in other fields too. Because for myself, as well as obviously following lots of dog and cat accounts, you won't be surprised at all to learn that I follow a lot of writing accounts and book accounts. And I get inspiration from those that are relevant to the pet field and writing my blog and so on as well. So apart from the dog training stuff, what other kinds of accounts do you like to follow to get ideas from?
I don't follow accounts specifically for ideas. It's like what I'm interested in that pops up from the algorithm, you know? And a lot of the things that tend to be really relevant in like a deep wound sort of way, or like I get a lot of like relationship, like romantic relationship type content, communication among humans. A lot of like ADHD and autism kind of content pops up for me. Yeah, like that sort of thing tends to be really, really like psychology, basically.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that human relationship stuff is also so relevant to our relationship with dogs, because a lot of the ways that we treat dogs seem to have to do with the ways that we have been treated as kids, perhaps, or have seen other people treat kids. And I think that influences people quite a lot. Okay, so you talked about where you get your ideas from. When you have an idea, I can see that you produce some really fantastic content. So you put a lot of work. There must be a lot of work, I assume, that goes on behind the scenes in order to put those together. So how much time do you spend editing or doing training setups to make videos for your content?
So much time. like it is its own full-time job. Like and it kind of depends. Like if you're making like really short form content or like using a viral sound just to do like a silly video, sometimes it can go super quick, but like honestly most of the time, and of course there's a learning curve, and for me, like I'm still kind of on that journey of learning how to do my own editing. But like I clocked it at one point and I was like, wow, it took me a full hour to like completely finish up what ended up being 1 minute of video content. And so it's like it's an insane amount of time, at least early on. So if doing the actual editing isn't like your interest or your forte, it's definitely one of those things to like hire, delegate. It's because it is its own job, truly. And I mean, as far as like just, so for me, it kind of has become my own job. Like I do the ratio of like how much training I do versus how much time I spend creating content has completely flipped the scales. So I do spend way more time doing that content now than working one-on-one with clients. So, you know, everybody can like choose like how much of each they want to do, I suppose, if they're getting into that. But yeah, it's a lot of time. And
it seems to me like it's really a process of telling stories. Like I think videos, when we're watching videos online, we're watching little tiny pieces of stories, and stories are like such a human way of navigating and learning and sort of relaxing. So I think there's something very cool to me about watching little tiny pieces of stories that you've created so carefully. You know, it's like not like, you know, there are some great videos that you can watch about dogs that are just like, I videoed this and it was like 30 seconds, but that's not necessarily what we're talking about. We're talking about like these really carefully edited videos that just kind of draw you in, you know, like they're telling this little tiny story.
Yeah, I mean, I have some very undigested thoughts that have been coming up for me lately that just kind of relate back to the idea that like for humans, anything that's important comes back to a story. Like stories are kind of the end all be all. Like nothing gets to us unless it is in some way a story. And so that's again part of this like creativity learning process that I'm on, is like learning how to tell better stories. Yeah, so it's a very acute observation from you that that like that's really the essence of what it is, and what makes a video good.
And I think it's like the editing thing matters way more than people realize if they haven't done any video editing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
No?
gosh, I still feel like, I mean, I am still such a beginner. There's so much still that I have to learn about like how to edit. But for me, it's been super fun.
How much training do you do beforehand for, like, some of them I think it's just a client, right? That you're working with, but some of them it seems much more like you've maybe written storyboards and you have like ideas, you know how it's gonna go.
Yeah, yeah. I've had several different types of formats, and like for sure, some of them I'm like, I have to do like train a new task for my dog beforehand. A lot of time, or what I'd really like to start doing more of is getting, video clips of the training process to like make tutorials and things like that. And that's funny with dog training, because a lot of times like you want to get like a really important part of it is I want people to be able to see the dog's body language. Like, what do they look like when they have no idea what you're asking of them, and sometimes if you pre-train a task and then you're like want to go back and like, okay, we're going to do step 1 and 2 now, but they really already know it, then it looks different on camera. And so it's tricky sometimes. Like sometimes you end up having to like just like repeat a bunch of stuff, and sometimes you're like, okay, well, we're just gonna get like a few second clip because all I need is like this step 2 right now, and we'll throw it together in a video later. But it's funny. I mean, as a content creator, and especially if you want to do like kind of vlogging type stories, you do kind of have to end up like repeating a lot of stuff you're like, oh, that was a great moment, I didn't get it on camera, so we're just gonna like pretend and do it again. It's a weird life.
Right. So what do you love training the most with your dog? So in your videos, are we seeing mostly your dogs, or are we seeing a lot of your client dogs as well?
It's mostly my dogs these days. And I like when I was going through the academy, I didn't have a dog, and I felt like I was the only weirdo who was like becoming a dog trainer, and I didn't have my own dog. And then somehow, and so I adopted my first dog, Dizzy, in 2019. I'd had him for like 6 months before the pandemic hit. And then just within a span of 3 years, I went from having 0 dogs to having 3 dogs. So yeah, there's lots to train with the 3 of them. And I mean, the thing I love most is working on cooperative care. I love grooming my dogs. I mean, it's fun for me. But I also think like it's great bonding time, because sometimes, life gets really busy, and sometimes, our dogs can feel neglected or whatever. And like having that as like just an important thing, important time that we get to spend together, where like they're getting my full and undivided attention, like they love it. And on top of that, like I just get the satisfaction of knowing that, I'm setting them up for a lifetime of just being less stressed when stuff has to be done to them. So hands down, cooperative care is my favorite. And I mean,
Fantastic.
but after that, like tricks are just super fun. And I've been working on parkour, like dog parkour titles with them kind of passively. So Dizzy's got his like novice title, and
Oh,
trying to bring, yeah, oh my God. And it was so cute too. Chihuahua, Pizza the Chihuahua, like this was before we had Keely, the puppy. Pizza would just be along as we're like on a walk, and I'm like asking Dizzy to do some parkour things that we've been working on, and she would just like, without me being aware that she's about to do this, she would just like do the thing he did, and I hadn't done any training with her, and she's tiny, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, you just jumped on this really high post. Like I have some videos where I'm just like, what? This dog is, she's hilarious, and she's gonna have so much fun when I like get to actually actively working on that with her too.
the first time I heard about dog parkour, I thought it was going to be people doing parkour with their dogs. And I was like, I am so down for this. And then I saw it and I'm like, wait, the people are doing like queuing. So I have this like idea, one of my 10,000 that I'm never going to get to, where I'm like, we should have like a parkour, but that's like people are like, oh, and old people like me, like, oh, I can't. And then like jumping up on logs and stuff. I did it, and then the dog comes up too. Like, I think that would be like fun.
I
That would
love
be very
that.
fun.
Oh my gosh, that's a really good idea. One day we should
We should do it.
Yeah, you should do
Come
it.
up with a program.
Yeah, I learned that there's like the International Dog Parkour Association now, and I took a trainer course with them and learned that like the history of how they came to be doing dog parkour is it was these two dog trainers, completely beside the fact that they were doing human parkour, and
Oh.
and they just always happened to have their dogs with them, and one day they were like, oh, we should we should be having our dogs, and they really very, very thoughtfully put together like the curriculum and the guidelines for keeping it safe, and like really bringing in the rich history and the values from the original human parkour creators. Like it's really a beautiful sport that is accessible for nearly every dog and human team. It's near and dear to my heart. It's such a beautiful dog sport.
Cool.
Cool, cool. So when you've prepared this wonderful content, I think often people can feel quite shy about sharing it or nervous of sharing things on social media, because we all know that it can have its bad side and it can be quite unpleasant, and that's off-putting for a lot of people. But at the same time, it can also be quite rewarding sometimes. So for you, what are the most rewarding moments?
Yeah, there've been lots, which is, I think, it's been reinforcing. That's why I'm still at it, right? And it's funny because I am one of those people, like when I first was like, I'm gonna put my face out on camera in public, I was terrified. I mean, it was like crippling self-doubt, and so I was just like, I don't want to do anything that would like upset anybody or like have any, invite any criticism. We don't need that negativity, right? But I've slowly gotten more comfortable with it, and some really big things that have come about that have been very, very rewarding are like, I've gotten a message from like Deborah Messing, like who commented on a post, and she had just gotten a new puppy, and we ended up sharing some DMs, like, and I was just like, oh my God, like this is amazing. Like I'm nobody, and here, very cool. And like the producer for The Tonight Show reached out and invited us to go on. It didn't happen. Just they didn't end up doing the segment, but like it was just it just like keeps you really excited and engaged. So there's like the really big obvious things, but the things that happen more steadily to keep you going is like, my favorite is just when somebody who has seen a video of mine like disappeared for a while with their dog, and they come back later like with the intention of just leaving the comment to let me know that like, hey, thank you so much for sharing this. I did this with my dog. Things are better now. And I'm like, oh my God, like people, they value this information. Like it means everything. So yeah, it's super, super rewarding.
Yeah, that's really nice. I think it really means a lot when someone takes the time to say thank you. And it's made a difference. That's lovely when that happens.
Well, and the thank you is great, but like even more impactful is just that they like actually took the information and implemented it. Like sometimes, like like I'll watch a video and I'll be like, oh, that's really useful, thanks, and then I go off and go back to my life and I forget. But like to know that people are like hanging on and putting into practice the stuff that you just put out for free, like I'm like, that's really cool. And the other cool thing is like getting to connect. Like I've met so many other trainers from other spheres through social media, and and you find people who like have like-minded values and opinions, and or have completely different like sets of knowledge to share, and that's also really reinforcing from a completely different angle.
Right.
So you're like quite the star on social media, and I know a ton of trainers find that, like Zazie was saying, it's hard. It's hard to put yourself out there, but also like it's hard to know what is actually getting traction, like what people want to see, what people are reading and sharing and commenting on. So do you have any tips? A ton of our audience are dog trainers. Do you have anything that would help them put out great content that will get people actually looking at it?
That's a big question. There's so much.
Yeah. Tell us all your secrets.
You have them all, do with them what you will. No, so so tips for creating more engagement. I will start by saying that if they don't watch the content, they can't engage with it. So you have to, like, I can't emphasize enough that you have to like put a lot of energy into the first like 2 or 3 seconds of anything. You know, if it's a video, 2 or 3 seconds, if it's, you know, like you write blogs, right? Like that first sentence is crucial. Because if they don't like the first sentence, they leave. And same with video. So you have to like really be intentional with a hook. Like the first thing that you say has to be really interesting. I took a copywriting course, and one thing that like really stuck with me about that first bit of whatever content you're creating is like, she said, don't summarize, surprise. So don't start off by saying like, oh, like this is going to be about that, you'll lose people right away. So say something that's like going to get people being like, what? You want to make them curious. So really focus on the hook. But then as far as like keeping people engaged, I mean, ask people questions. Don't forget to like treat your audience like they're peers, they're equals, right? And they are there because they want to know you and they want to engage with you. And so being there, like you got to respond to comments, you know, or even like send out DMs to your audience, people who are active, or like that's a really great way to like get people coming back. And you want people who like the odd person who like, yo, you just showed up on their For You page, you know, through the algorithm or whatever, and they see one video, like that's great. But like the people who become your like super fans, you don't forget to like make them feel valuable. It's so easy to get caught up in the like, oh my God, what do I look like? And what am I sound like? Am I saying the right thing? And blah, blah, blah. Like I do this every day. I like get so wrapped up in the like me, it's about me because I'm the one on camera. But it's so everything gets better when you're like, oh, forget that. It's about them. And what do they want? What do they need? And what do they feel? Like I love, like one of the things that just I kind of try and keep this track running in my head is like, I really want other people to feel seen and heard and valued, and because like that's what I want too. That's what we all want, right? And so that's kind of what I try to put out in the world as well. And then the other big tip that I guess I'll share today is one that you can take or leave, because I definitely left it at the beginning of my content creation journey, is like the best, like the fastest way, maybe not the best, but certainly the fastest. Again, there's trade-offs, right, to everything. The fastest way to like get a lot of engagement is be controversial, right? So and I say take it or leave it because like if you're new and you don't want to invite like trolls and people who are like gonna want to just argue with you, if that really gets to you, leave it to the side for a while, because I did. It's not something you totally need. It's a fast way to get there. But at the end of the day, like at some point, I think you have to get comfortable like being controversial, right? People don't like, you're not going to get a lot of people really paying attention if you're not like and viewing you as an expert if you're afraid to like share your opinion. And so sometimes that means being controversial, and you can have fun with it. You know, you can be silly with it and like just know, or I like just be intentional, be aware of like, okay, like this, I'm putting this out there. I know it's going to invite, and then have a strategy for like how to deal with the negativity and the trolls and all of that. But it's a great way to get people to engage.
And our field is steeped in controversy. Like even just like doing regular best practices are somehow extremely controversial. So
yeah, it's wild. And I like, again, I'm a person who is super sensitive to the like, oh my God, if people come and they think I said something wrong, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm such a people pleaser. So I understand. So I'm just now getting into the part where I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna dip my toe in the like, I'm gonna be a little controversial now.
But you're right, and it's crazy that some of the things that are just so obvious, sensible, science-based kind things to do with dogs that somehow are controversial. So I think you can't have an opinion without being controversial accidentally sometimes, because that's what people are like. But I especially love what you said about thinking about your audience, because that's who it's for, and you want them to feel valued and engaged. So I think, like, they matter because they do matter. So yeah, I especially like that tip. Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things. It's like, it seems like such a basic idea, but at the same time, like we totally don't focus on that if we're so nervous.
But also, I think it's a good way to not be so nervous, because it's natural for a lot of people to feel very nervous in these situations, but other people don't know that you're nervous. And if you're thinking about the other people, you don't have the brain space to still be nervous, really. It takes those nerves away, I think. Do you find
That's
that?
absolutely. That's a kind of a perfect explanation. Like it's a trick to help you as well, in more ways than one. So for sure, it gets your brain off of that. And I mean, I still get nervous. I'm nervous right now, but focusing on the whatever value you're providing for other people it does wonders.
Mhm.
And I think
Well,
like just recognizing that our audience has dogs and they want to talk about their dogs is also, and I'm like, and I want to hear about your dogs, man. Like, you literally can never bore me talking about your dogs. So like, if you're like, just remembering that the people who are watching our stuff or paying or reading have dogs and care about them and want to talk about them and want to, learn about them.
Oh yeah, I've had people that are like, how do I send you a video of my dog? And I'm like, send them all. Like, oh no, I can't get enough.
good, good. Well, thank you for sharing all of those tips with us. And I'm going to ask you to share one more thing, because we're going to move on to the books section, where we each of us share a book that we've been enjoying reading. So we're going to start with you, Jennifer, and I would love to know what you are reading at the moment and what you like about it.
So the timing of this interview is very serendipitous, because I just finished reading a book that I like. I don't want to rave about it, because it's one of, like, it's like a great movie, you don't want to tell people how great it is so that they don't go in with all these amazing expectations. But this book, I think, has like changed my brain forever. Like,
Mm.
it's amazing. And it was the title that caught me first.
Why Fish Don't Exist. I think we've lost you, Jennifer.
Yeah, she's
We'll wait.
yeah.
We'll wait and hopefully she'll come back.
Do you want me to go on to my book?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. So the book that I have just started, I actually found it it was in on a free table at the Hazleton Farmers Market, and I was like, "What? There's a hardback Louise Penny book?"
All the Devils Are Here. Oh, and it's got the Eiffel Tower on the cover. I like that.
Yeah, so it's Canadian author Louise Penny, and she's written a really long-standing series about a Canadian, like a Quebecois police chief, I guess, or I don't know what it is. It's like a murder mystery series, the Gamache, and they're so good. They're all so good. She's a wonderful author. She manages somehow to like, it's almost like they're written as like a police, murder mystery procedural type book. But instead of feeling like that, which I love those books, it feels a little bit like a fairy tale, but you believe it. You suspend disbelief for these. And so you're in this tiny village, and it sounds so cliche. Like I would, you couldn't even, make it sound uncliched in describing sort of the general premise. They live in a tiny town in Quebec that's so small that it's not even on the maps. And as a cartographer, I'm like, they're all on the maps, man. Like, come on. But it doesn't even matter, because even me, like when I'm in the book, I'm in it, and the characters, they're not, they're so, they're so hilariously themselves that they're not even like real people necessarily, but they're so good you don't even care, you know? So like I actually laugh out loud at some of the characters constantly, and you really you feel like you get to know all the characters, and they're so perfectly peoply, you know? And then the stories are just interesting, and she's somehow woven in like random fascinating Canadian, you know, factoids and histories, and then you get to know the family throughout the, I think this is like the 10th book or the 15th book, I don't even know. And it's not even the most recent one. I'm not caught up yet. I think there's at least one more book after this one. One is from 2020. So yeah, it's just like, I cannot recommend this series enough. If you like books where you can keep reading more and more, you know, you don't have to say goodbye at the end of the book because there's, oh look, there's another book. So yeah, highly recommend, even though I'm only a couple pages into this one, but the series has been just absolutely wonderful.
Can you say the name of the
Excellent.
series again, Christy?
It's Louise Penny, and this book is All the Devils Are Here, but it's
Okay.
not the first one in the series. I don't remember the name of the first one, but it's the sort of the main character that they're following through the book. His name is Gamache, and it's quite a well-known series now, and I just love the writing, love the storytelling. Absolutely, it's like a fairy tale of a murder mystery, but completely you completely get sucked in. So it's 2 thumbs up.
That sounds like
Excellent.
that sounds like something I'd love. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for coming back, Jennifer. Internet issues happen to us all from time to time. So, you know, thank you very much for coming back, and we'll go back to your book. So I saw you hold up the cover. Why Fish Don't Exist. Who is it by?
By Lulu Miller.
Uh-huh. And tell us all about it.
So I had started saying
Yeah.
it's like the first half, I was like, kind of like, what is this book about? By the second half, I was like having goosebumps throughout every chapter. Like I felt like sections of my brain were being rearranged. Like I have never, ever before, like finished the last page of a book and then immediately wanted to go back and reread it, because I was like, okay, I need to process this more. One of the things it says on the back is like, so it's claims to be like the history of this taxonomist from the 1800s who ended up being the president of Stanford College. And it says what she would unearth about his life would transform her understanding of nature, history, morality, and love. And my sense of those things also transformed after reading her thoughts about it. Like I closed this book and somehow simultaneously felt this sense of like peace and calm, and also like inspiration and exhilaration. Like I was just like, what is happening to me? It's incredible. And honestly, I think it's the sort of book that your audience would really love. So Why Fish Don't Exist.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that would make a good book club choice in the future. So thank you. Yeah, I'm going to have to read both of those, I think. So my book is The Invention of the Modern Dog. The subtitle is Breed and Blood in Victorian Britain, and it's by Michael Worboys, Julie Marie Strange, and Neil Pemberton. So it's historical, it's very carefully researched, and it's about basically the development of dog breeds. And we all know that dog breeds are a relatively modern invention. So they were started really in Victorian times when the dog shows started, but the history of it is there's actually a lot of detail in there. It's very, very thoroughly researched. It's got pictures. So for example, I don't know if you can see this one is bulldogs.
Wow.
All the pictures of bulldogs. So that's always fascinating to see what dogs used to look like. And it's just really interesting, and there's a lot of intrigue, and I guess I didn't realize it was so complicated, because I just thought, oh, the Kennel Club developed and started having dog shows, but no, there were lots of dog shows and lots of different competing groups, and so lots of different things going on. And also, it wasn't even that they weren't initially called breeds. People would talk about breeds, but also strains and varieties and lots of different words. And then gradually it came settled on the word breeds. So it's actually a really interesting history of a certain period in time when all these breeds were being developed. So I found that really fascinating. It's very, very thoroughly researched. It's got a ton of references at the end. So it is a little bit academic, but it's actually really, really interesting as well. So yeah, there's a lot more going on there than I thought there would be. So that's nice, nice to look at. So very, very interesting indeed. Yeah. So thank you, Jennifer, for joining us. Before we go, where can people find you if they want to learn more about you, and especially where should they go to follow you on social media?
Yeah, at the moment, my social media for TikTok is called Dizzy Dancing Dog, and on Instagram and YouTube, it's just my name, Jennifer Malawey. And we're going to be putting a lot of like more grooming and cooperative care stuff on YouTube coming up pretty soon. So that'll be probably the place to go.
Great. I will look forward to seeing that. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming to chat with us today. It's been a real pleasure, and I've enjoyed hearing your tips about social media, especially. So thank you very much. And thank you to everyone who's listening or watching. Please hit the subscribe button to make sure that you catch future episodes as soon as they're released. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.